Good morning, good morning. You know, I had too much oil on my arm and I moved over on my chair funny. But good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you're having a pleasant morning. I am. In fact, I was running in here. I was just watching Lettucey on ABC. She has a new song out called Stone. And some of the words are, I am stronger than stone. No matter what happens to me, I'm stronger than stone. I mean, that's awesome. That is awesome to think that no matter what comes your way, you're going to defend it. You're ready for it. No matter what it is, be it pandemic, be it a relationship, be it whatever, you ready. You are ready. Good morning. And look at this. I couldn't decide if I wanted the red or I wanted the yellow. So I decided to wear red on one side and yellow on another. Here I am. I'm just doing Sandy this morning, having a good time. Lord, the week has gone by so quickly. We're already on, I can't believe it, we're on hump day already and things are moving quickly. And we're already on the 2nd of September, which says that, the year has moved quite fast, even though we have been under this strange, events. Strange events went on this year for a lot of people, a lot of different reasons, for whatever the reason. And I can certainly say I know who's in control. I'm not. So I am generally going to just fall into whatever it is that needs to be dealt with, and say, like Angie is saying, like Lettucey is saying, that I am stone. I'm going to take it. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to move on. So this morning, of course, I had something else. I was watching the TV and listening to radio and just doing some things that kind of gives me, good morning, Miss Grace. How are you, my friend? I can't see you. I want to see you. I'm going to come do it. I'm going to stand outside like I did 2 weeks ago. But anyway, it's so good to see you in the little space here. But I'm going to do this thing called just. Just understanding that everything isn't just. We don't always get our best justice, but things happen. And so we have to learn how to deal with them in spite of our treatment, in spite of, good morning, Gwen, in spite of what goes on, we have to still deal with the world as it is and how it treats us. But we have to know how to deal with it. If we take it and we internalize it, then we end up with ulcers, and some of us don't end up emotionally too well or physically too well. So we need to realize that our way of going forward is not to go down with the ship. Let the ship go down. You can't handle it. You can't steer it. You're not in control of it. So you just let it go. Good morning, Janice. So you just let it go and you look at what works for you. What doesn't work for you, okay. What works for you, absolutely wonderful. Hi, Bill. So when we look forward, we want to talk about what is just. What is just? So I had to go online, and once again on Pinterest or whatever these websites on that I go on for poetry. This one did not have a name by it, but I liked it. I liked it because it did have some decent stuff in it. So let's listen a minute. Okay, this one is called Justice Part 1. It says, justice is a crystal ball, not a brick throne. It is promise of this will be. There will be no need for tears shed in mourning. Justice is a hand extended and not an open wound. Justice is the final mirror for everyone anywhere to see. Justice is a whisper. Justice is a shout. Justice is a fist raised. Justice is a head bowed. Justice is a statue. Justice wears a blindfold. Justice Justice is the hands of humans. Justice is a noose. Justice is handcuffed. Justice is prison cell. Justice is hollow cry. Justice is a bitter lie. Now, I'm going to tell you, I usually try to tell you why I like this poem. I like this poem because it talks about the way it could be and sometimes the way it is. And sometimes we have no control over what happens to us, but we do have a control over how we react to it. And so when we look at justice, it may be that our just, Just, isn't in the rest of that word, where we may not see justice fairly done by certain people, to certain people, and then specifically to us. So we have to talk about what just could be. So anyway, I'm going to ask you this morning, are you stuck? Yes. Periodically, we're all going to get stuck. We're going to get stuck on so many things, things that we think we have control over and we don't. Even things that we have control over. There may be limitations in how far our control goes. Sometimes I tell you, your money will only take you so far. Your reputation may take you further, or less than that may drop. Okay, so we have to talk about what is in our just, and our just is that we have to be mindful that not everyone's going to be fair, not everything's going to be just. It's just not going to happen. So when we move on to the word just, we want to talk about, well, what is just? What is just? Now, we could say, when they have some of those sayings like just do it, just believe, just understand, just love, just care, all those things, all those nice adjectives that after just are good. But when we talk about the basic just, which might be the ICE on the end, it says based on behaving according to what is morally right and fair, or in a way that it is exactly what we request it to be of our past, of what our treatment has been. It may be fair. It says it may be fair, it may be unbiased, it may be impartial, it could be objective, neutral, disinterested, meaning that somebody's not interested enough in you to give you just. It may be an honorable thing. Good morning, Maurice. Good morning, Miss Joan. It says it may be an honorable thing. It may be decent, ethical, honest, moral, trustworthy, sincere, and truthful. Those are all the things that just is supposed to be. But also there's reverse of all of that. And some of us have probably been on the end of when we felt that we were not treated justly. We were not treated with justice. We were treated just the opposite. We were unjustly treated. And we have to acknowledge it. Sometimes, you can look at something and you know what it is, but somebody else will describe it and all of a sudden you've changed the name. A fly is a fly is a fly. And a couple of times they were so big I thought they were bees, only to be told that that's a fly, Sandra. Okay, so sometimes we just have to recognize where we are with what it is we see, what it is we feel, what it is we know, and how we deal with it is the bottom line. How we deal with it. And sometimes we don't deal well. We just don't. We don't. So when we break the word down, the J is judge. Who's the judge over presiding over some things with us, with someone else, with a group, with the legislation, all of that? Just, a judge has to look at, they should look at what the opinion is that isn't biased, that isn't, what I would call, riddled with holes. It's supposed to be fair. The judge is supposed to be the arbitrator, the assessor, the evaluator, the appraiser, the examiner, and the moderator. That's what a judge is supposed to do. So when we look at a judge, it says to form an opinion or a conclusion about whatever it is. And sometimes the conclusion that may be, drawn about somebody like ourselves or someone that we know we're concerned about. It's like, well, how did they get there? How did they get that? Well, sometimes people have their own bias. They bring it with them and they bring it to the table, and they certainly bring it to the areas where they have influence, clout, or authority. And so that's what a judge has. Because they've been put in that office for the purpose of doing just that. And they're supposed to honor the law, but sometimes they may not always do that. They may honor themselves in the middle of the law. So then we want to talk about what is the U of just. The U of just is unfair. And sometimes we have to admit that we have had unfair treatment, unfair acknowledgement, unfair housing, unfair everything. It's not just me, it could be anybody. And it's not just blacks, it could be other people, other races, other ethnicities. It does not matter. Unfair is unfair. And it says to be unfair is to look at not being fair, not comforting, to approve standards as of justice or honesty or ethics. Meaning that's what their way of dealing with stuff is. It's fair to who they want it to be fair to and unfair to others. And so to be unfair really talks about things that are wrong, things that are dishonorable, things that are unethical, things that are evasive. Because sometimes you can read sentences that what I would call the judicial system has put out, and they're so convoluted that you don't understand. They're comprehensive, and they're built on language which sometimes makes it where, unless you're a lawyer, you don't even know what they're saying. But it says that they could be evasive, could be dishonest, could be unrightful, immoral, forbidden, and partial. So sometimes you don't even get the whole picture of what it is. I've had, friends that talked about what went down in their divorce decree. Well, sometimes it depends on the lawyer that they had. The lawyer that they had. And it could be the same thing if you filed a discrimination case or your child custody, whatever it is. Sometimes you need a lawyer to understand what some other lawyer is saying in contrast, so that you know where you stand and how you stand. But anyway, to really look at being unfairly judged lets you know that sometimes you're on the wrong side of justice. Okay, you're on the wrong side of it. If you've been wrongly treated, wrongly cited, you didn't get your just in terms of maybe it was money, maybe it was a position, maybe it was, divorce decree, whatever it is, write it in the thread. No shame here, no shame. We've all been through something. But the S of just, now I got to take you out and bring you back in. The S of just talked about the sanest. Sanest is to talk about how well you handle stuff. Are you still sane about it after things keep going down and they go down and they go down? And where are you? Are you down with the things that went down? Sometimes we are. Sometimes that's just where we go, where our spirit is broken, our hearts are broken, our effectiveness is broken. We've lost confidence. We've lost confidence in other people and ourselves. So sometimes we're not the sanest people when we're going through something that has kind of driven us in that direction for us to blame ourselves for what other people might have done. So when we talk about the saneness, it's free from any mental derangement. And I've seen people go absolutely buggy. They go, they have some mental problems because of their treatment. Treatment is something that it permeates the soul. It permeates the inner workings of the body. So sometimes if you do not have a great connection with your higher power, for me, it's my God, then, all I can say is, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. What happened? Why? How did they do that? But sometimes things happen to us and we don't know. And some people who don't have an anchor, who do not know how to bring things in and understand them, that it's something else operating and it's not them, that they can stop blaming themselves. It says, so to really have the sanest idea is to be in healthy mind. To be in healthy mind. It says a sane person having or showing sound judgment or good sense. And sometimes we don't always do that when we've been hurt, when we've been ridiculed, when we've been downtrodden, when we've just been kind of torn apart by whatever took over us. And I've seen people through my counseling sessions where they never healed. They never healed from the break that came. It broke them. It broke their spirit to the point where they thought that their lives were over because of something that someone did to them. And sometimes we just have to stand back and observe what happened to us from a third view, from not from the view of the person that did it to us, or from our current view of what we were in, but from the view of, look, I'm going to observe this like somebody else, a third party, and I'm going to look at it differently. I have to, because this happened to me. I didn't bring it on. It happened to me. But a lot of times we do blame ourselves. So when we have sound mind, it might be something that's prudent, something that's a sage, something that's where we're not as sensible as we should be. We're not as wise as we should be. We doubt ourselves. It says that we may be irrational. We're just not on top of stuff. We're not as level-headed as we should be. So to be the sanest, we want to be in our right mind. So therefore, we have our faculties. We do make sense. We do ask questions. We do stay in the middle of not blaming ourselves for what happened. It's like, look, y'all did this. This is what I see. This is how I feel. This is where I am. And being able to say I'm sane about it. Regardless, I'm going to be in my right mind about what I know happened to me. And the last of the words for just is T, which is threshold. And why did I pick threshold? That's because at some point in time, you knew something was getting ready to start. You knew it was getting ready to jump off. You knew something was not right. It might have started out with a rumor. It might have started out with a whisper. It might have started out with email or text messages, something, since the modern times now. Okay, or it might have just started out with a phone call. Somebody called you, say, hey, did you know this went on, this went down? You didn't know. So the threshold is the magnitude or intensity that must be exceeded for a certain reaction, phenomenon, result, or condition to occur, to be manifested. So therefore, that means something happened. It was a baseline when all this jumped off for you to go into this period of where you realized that you had unjust treatment, you had unjust kindness, you had unjust, things going on that you had no control over, but they were happening to you none the same. None the same. So it says when you talk about the threshold, it's the baseline of something. It's the limit. It's when the limit starts. You're starting out. You're seeing it. It's the red line. We're like, cross this line and you're already into it. It's the constraint. It may be a door that was closed. It says it may be the genesis, which is when something kicks off. It's the starting point of when something just begins. It's the approach. It's the gate, the gateway or the entry. It's the doorstop, So all of these things, and it might be the still before the storm. It is something that tells you that your treatment has begun to change from what it used to be to something else. Okay, that's the threshold. And you realize that this is not going in the right direction. I didn't orchestrate this. I didn't put myself in the middle of this, but I find myself in the middle of this. So it's your reaction to all of this. So your just may not be your doing, but it may have to be your undoing. It may have to be that you have to find yourself in your center and say, bull with this. I'm done with it. It's not me. It's somebody else creating all this mess. That's it. Because I feel if you really know who you are and you didn't do certain things, it's good. It's good. But some of us do get mixed up. We get mixed up because it comes so fast or so much comes that we feel like we've been avalanched. We've been, snowballed into something. We've been absolutely consumed by whatever this unjust period is. So when we talk about the center of injustice or justice, we may not feel that we've been justly treated. We haven't. But we have to be able to acknowledge it. We have to. And we also have to say, I'm not to blame. I'm not to blame. Now, the other thing, if you are to blame, you admit to that too. Okay, because sometimes we may have started something with a conversation. And the conversation, I always use that example of you start with a little whisper in the ear and you give them a story and the story goes around the circle. By the time it comes to the other side, it's not the same story that started. So sometimes that does happen to us, you know, because people, you know, they enjoy a good story, a sensationalistic story. They love it. Even if it's a lie, the story gets them attention. The story gets them an opportunity. Good morning, Kim. So it just puts them in a position of being listened to. Sometimes that's all people want to do is be listened to. So they will take on a story, maybe even make it up. Okay? And then as the story is added on to it, becomes a huge bomb in the middle of your core of who you are. And sometimes you have to back away from it and say, look, I don't have nothing to do with that. I know nothing about it. It is not me. And people may force you with questions. They may force you with, well, why don't you know about this? And is this not you? Is this not you? You have to stand up for yourself. You do. You have to absolutely stand up for yourself. And sometimes stand up for yourself doesn't always come out right either. Because stand up for yourself, they say, I still say that's the other person or the group. I still say that you had something to do with this. And you didn't. You didn't. But you have to own your own truth. Own your own truth. And if you know it's not your truth, don't admit to it. Continue to be who you are. Continue to rise above the fray. Because everybody knows if you listen to the rhetoric on the TV, there's constantly mud being thrown that you wonder how, well, they had to make that mud up because, first of all, it sounds totally made up and it doesn't certainly serve well for whoever's throwing it. So there you go. So anyway, here's my questions for today. I'm looking at just, and I want to ask you a few of these. It says, have you experienced a period where the results were not just regarding you? Have you ever experienced a period where the results were not just for you? I know I can say I have. I know what it is. I know what it is to be in that position and, feeling helpless. But then you turn it around. You turn it around because, time does heal. And I think going forward, you learn how to deal with things, especially if it wasn't your thing to begin with. Question number 2, have you provided assistance to someone who is dealing with an unjust experience? Have you ever provided assistance? Have you ever provided understanding, to somebody? Don't know. Have you seen somebody be treated unfairly and you stepped in? Have you? I know I have. I have. Question number 3. I hope you have a pen and paper. I didn't even ask, but I usually do. Hope you'll share this at the end. It says, have you been given an unfair hand in a job, with a job, or relationship, or project, etc.? Have you ever been given an unfair hand, meaning you were dealt something that didn't belong to you, but you tried to deal with it anyway? I know I have. Tried to bring the best light to it. And actually, I've had a few of those where it turned out to the positive, and then they wanted the credit. So sometimes things are thrown on you, not because they feel that you're going to do well, but that it's just the opposite. They feel that they gave it to you and you're going to fail in it. But, that's that frown turned upside down. Back up there, smiling about it. Number 4, it says, do you know of anyone who has not been the sanest after they've gone through a period of unjust, just a period of unjust? Have you ever known somebody where you watched them just feel bad, kind of go into depression, anxiety, doubting themselves? Have you ever seen that? I have. I have. And have you ever done it? If you have, just write it down. And the last question is, dealing with the threshold or start of just, when it just begins, it says this unjust period. Did you realize it then, or later that you were getting ready to go down a little bit by someone's opinion, someone's, accusation, someone's threat, someone else had something else going on and they gave it to you, I know I've seen that done with a lot of people, and I asked them the question, do you remember when it started? And sometimes they'll tell me, yes, it was somebody called me up and told me that this was the rumor that was out there, or this was the accusation, or I received an email or whatever. So sometimes we don't know how we're going to receive something that makes us realize about just or unjust injustice. It does happen. It does. I wanted to talk about just a minute or two, about the world that we're looking at right now. There's just so many things that you wonder who's on right, who's on wrong. The mask, that's a big issue. Sending kids to school, that's another big issue. Or teaching them at home, and then of course the whole presidency thing. All those things are, there's some probably just things in them, and there's some things that are not justice at all. It's just a weird kind of time in my lifetime, and I'm quite sure in yours too, that you wonder, where is justice, where you want to call on them. It's almost like a man, a woman, you want to see him step in. It's going to do the right thing, say the right thing, be in the correctness of time, understanding, the name calling and all those things that really put people at odds with each other. I just worry about, where will we be next year this time, or 2 years from now? We just seem to be getting further and further away from our good, our smiles, our ability to see things clearly, because there's so much what I would call noise in the air. Good morning, Jamisha. There's so much noise in the airways, constantly, and it's in the news feeds. It's on, and you can't even go to Facebook and you not see something that is now an advertisement for something political, or something that has back and forth about the coronavirus, or the mask wearing, or the whatever. So I think it's a period of time in our lives where we have to talk about, right, Joan, where is justice and where is truth? Because to me, it's almost like a seesaw. We're up and down every day, something constantly going on. I just never remember in my lifetime of there being such an uneasiness, even in the 60s, when I was really young. I just don't remember it being this crazy. I remember getting in touch with that fear I had of, with the rioting, and being concerned about my folks, because they were younger then, and out and about, and I'm thinking, well, will they get back home to us? Because they would always have, show it on TV, and they would show the dogs, and all those kinds of things, that the water hoses and stuff. And I remember those visions as a child, and so I think about that stuff now, because even anybody can, with their cell phone, can tape anything. And so we see that life as we know it is even more vivid. It's more up close and personal. And so I work every day trying to tell people, let's hold on, to the best thoughts we have, the most kind words we can use, the most sincere appreciation. If somebody does something for us, or we do something for someone else, certainly acknowledge it. And so that becomes the important things of life to me, And so I'm going to say, I thank you for coming into this little space with me every day. I'm hoping one day to ramp it up where I'll do the podcast and start interviewing people. I would just like to interview just regular folks who are dealing with some of the same things that I'm talking about. So it's not a one-sided conversation, but that you actually can speak on it, where you can talk about what your experience has been, or what your route is going forward, and how you need to look at things, how you address how you address all the issues that you deal with, some better than others, and all those kinds of things. It certainly puts a new spin on what it is that I'm doing, which on the Are You Stuck? And so when I come to you every day, I'm looking at my what I can get stuck on, and how it just comes to me every day, something that gives me an idea on what I should talk on. And so I appreciate each one of you, and thank you very much for coming. Tomorrow we'll have another session on looking at something that we may smile at, we may put pause in, we may be critical of, but something. There's always something to that we can look at that changes us in one way or another, and makes it either a positive or a negative, or we're someplace in the middle of in the neutral range of trying to figure it all out. But I hope to see you tomorrow. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. You have a wonderful day. Be safe, and look at how just you can be today, or how well you are treated in your just today. All right? Thank you. Bye bye. See you tomorrow.